Greetings, YouTube. Today I'll be reviewing The Last 3 Minutes by Paul Davies. Now, if any of you have ever read any books on physics in the past, you might recognize the style of this title, because there was a very important book called The First 3 Minutes by Steven Weinberg, which was very good, and I recommend it, though I believe quite a bit of the information in it is kind of outdated because it was written fairly far in the past. And this particular book is 20 years old, and I know that some of the information in it is also outdated. But that doesn't mean that the discussion that the author is having, Mr. Davies, is not worth your time. And this is part of something called the Science Masters. Science Masters. So this may be part of a whole series of books from... it's a really good question. Who is these people? Wiedenfield and Nicholson from London. Here we go. Future titles in the Masters series. It's Richard Dawkins, Colin Blakemore, W. Daniel Hillis, George Smoot, it's a great name, Mary Catherine Bateson, Daniel Bennett, Jared Diamond. He wrote Gun, Germs, and Steel, or something like that. That's the title. It's got those 3 words in there. It's all about how disease and technical developments have had an impact on who controls the world, essentially. Stephen Gould and Marvin Minsky. So I may look at some of those as well, because they're probably already published, seeing this is, like I said, like 20 years old. But I picked it up because of the title, because I've read Steven Weinberg's book. I liked it. I thought, okay, this guy's playing off that riff. And he's talking about how our universe may end. This is pure speculation. The physics involved is solid, but we don't know yet. And essentially, there are 2 possibilities that could happen. One, we suffer a heat death. And that's exactly what it sounds like. That eventually, all the suns burn out. There is no new fuel. And eventually, all the residual heat energy left over from the Big Bang just dissipates. Entropy just takes over, and we end up with a dark, cold universe, ever expanding, with everything further and further apart. The other possibility is the Big Crunch, where the universe expands to some undetermined point in the future, and then it begins to contract, and eventually coming all the way back down to a point-like entity, the Big Crunch. Now, I love the idea of a cycle. That would be awesome. Big Bang, Big Crunch. Big Bang, Big Crunch. The problem is that wouldn't work, because entropy still wins. Because each time that happened, there would be more black holes. And you would actually end up with diminishing gains over time. Now, some of the information I'm almost positive this is completely wrong, because this person, the author of this, Davies, is talking about the universe having 10 billion galaxies and there being 100 billion stars in our galaxy. And the latest numbers I know of, that there are 200 billion stars in our galaxy, and there are 200 billion galaxies. And that is what we know in the observable universe, which is a bubble about 50 billion light years in diameter. That's it. That's as big as we can get. Actually, sorry, radius, so 30 billion years in both directions, 15 in the other direction. So that's a big sphere, but it's just the observable universe. Latest numbers I've heard is that the universe itself is 93 billion light years in size, and expanding at faster than the speed of light. Now, you're probably saying, oh, it can't do that. It violates the speed of light. And it doesn't violate the speed of light. Light cannot travel faster than the speed of light. Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light within our universe. There's nothing stopping the universe itself from expanding at faster than the speed of light. Also, at the time of this writing, he was talking about the universe slowing down. And I believe I've read some article not long ago where the universe is actually shown to not be slowing down. And in fact, some physicists are speculating that it may be actually accelerating, which is a big puzzle. Either it's not slowing down, or if it is accelerating, why is this happening and how is this happening? Great questions. I will probably never live to see the answer to these questions, because they're really big. But in either case, the author does have a really good time telling the story, and it's not a huge book, though it is kind of on the dense side as far as the topic itself. But it's interesting to see in the future, and this is a really far time in the future, billions and billions and billions of years, maybe trillions of years in the future, when the universe would get to the point where the stars would be burning out, there would be no fuel because all the fuel had been used up, no new stars are being made, because again, there just isn't anything left. But how a society of sapient beings might preserve itself by like moving galaxies around to create nodes of energy. They're still going to wear down, but you might be able to make concentrations of energy through the formation of galaxies, moving galaxies into clusters intentionally. Even though the universe is expanding, you moving them into place, allowing that society to continue forward. There's the possibility that there could be pockets of varying degrees of expansion in our universe, and if you could get into one of those pockets and it would be expanding at a different rate, so it might survive longer than the pocket that you are currently in, the pocket that we're in now. Maybe we could move to another parallel universe, the multiverse theory, which is a wonderful theory, but I'm always struck by the fact that it's so inelegant. It does answer a lot of questions, but I think it creates as many as it answers. And I think that the universe has an underlying structure that's more elegant than that, but I'm not sure. And again, I don't know the math, nor the physics to give you a solid answer on that. Maybe it's just a gut feeling. I'd like the universe to be elegant, because we've seen over time that we find more and more interactions that are connecting on a fundamental level. At one time, electricity and magnetism were separate. Whoop, nope, they're not. Then we thought electromagnetism and the weak theory were separate. Nope, electro-weak theory are all connected. Eventually, we may be able to get the strong force in there, and then, of course, if we can tie gravity in, we would have a theory of everything. So since we know that there has been a series of making things actually more elegant and simple, I don't think the multi-universe theory is going to hold up over time. Though again, it does answer a lot of questions. It creates a lot of scaffolding that it does create answers, but the scaffolding that does that is as large as the object that you're building. So you're like, wow, do I really need this much scaffolding? This is kind of ugly. But maybe we can do it. Maybe we can move into another parallel universe. I've heard a theory that using the membrane theory, that our universe and another universe could exist, and it's the little colliding of these things that created the Big Bang. So who knows? Maybe there'll be another one at some point in the future where this is erased and something else a new cycle is started again, or a new universe, not a new cycle, the new universe is created in the theoretical same space that we are in now. One reality being imposed upon another. That's kind of an intriguing science fiction concept, no, isn't it? But the book is good. It's not overly long, though it is dense, and I had a good time with it. I'm glad it's I'm glad I read it, and I do recommend Weinberg's book, The First 3 Minutes. I think that you may want to read that one first, but I don't think it's necessarily required. This is still very interesting. So yes, I recommend The Last 3 Minutes. It's fascinating. Regardless of whether we die in a heat death or we die in the big crunch. Not die, but the universe ends in either way. I find them both intriguing. And oddly, I find the heat death of our universe strangely comforting. The idea that everything just eventually winds down. I'm not sure why, but the idea that everything just goes quiet. I find that fascinating.